My name is Dr. CPA David Muturi, and welcome to our second episode of The Effective Manager. And today our conversations are going to be around creating trust in the workplace. We spend most of our awake hours in the workplace. And therefore, if there is one place that we need trust and to feel trusted and to feel appreciated and to trust other people and appreciate them, it is the workplace. And therefore, we're going to examine some of the behaviors that destroy the workplace, the trust in the workplace. And it is very important to remember right from the outset that behavior breeds behavior. If you look at me and you smile, I'm likely to smile back. If you look at me and frown, I'm likely to frown back. So if you demonstrate a trust in me, I'm most likely to demonstrate and give trust in return. We're going to discuss about 10 behaviors that destroy the trust in the workplace. And one of them is when you escalate the email chain, hitting reply, CCing your boss and her boss and other people in the email who were not of immediate need to get to know. And therefore, when you do that, the person who is intended to, the email is intended to or for, will question your intention of the copying. That is, you have escalated to so many people, you've copied your boss, you've copied your boss and the other boss. It's very important to ask yourself, what is the intention or what is it that I need to achieve? And when we are having this conversation, I should mention that this is as a result of feedback that I have obtained as I train, as I interact and train managers in my various trainings, that most of them find it very uncomfortable when people copy in email to people who are not of immediate need to know. They question the intention. And what will happen is that the person who was intended, the email is intended for, will be very, very suspicious about the person who has copied the email to the various people. So it is important as a team player to ask yourself, when you're doing that CCing and copying, what are you seeking to achieve? The second behavior that destroys the trust in the workplace is for people who usually bypass the person who is involved in a certain issue or in a certain situation, and they will tell everybody else about the issue or about the matter, but they will not tell the person who is involved. And this is particularly bad when you're the team leader. You have an issue with one of your team members, has not met the deadline, is coming in late, or there's some competence issue. But instead of dealing with the person directly, you tell everybody else, so-and-so is not performing, I'm going to sack so-and-so, I'm going to take this action, but you have not confronted and dealt with the person who is concerned. Now that brings about suspicions, because the people you are telling will also wonder what you say about them in their absence. So it is very important as a team leader, it's very important as a team member, if there is an issue, do not bypass the person who is involved and you tell everybody else. Deal with the person who is involved, and that way you can be able to create trust. The people can feel that you don't say things behind their backs, or people will feel that there is nothing that you have an issue with them, that you're not telling them, but you're telling everybody else. The other behavior that will destroy trust in the workplace is when you choose email, textbook, a text message, or delegate the delivery of difficult messages or information. Of course, in the current times, we have the challenge of meetings and all that, but it is always very important that where there is a difficult issue that needs to be discussed, one is not performing their job, or whatever the difficult message might be, it helps a lot in terms of creating trust when you hold that conversation on a face-to-face or through a telephone call. Even if it means separating or it means retrenchment, whatever it might be that is difficult to deal with, it helps always to have a conversation that is either face-to-face or a conversation on phone, rather than choosing to do an email or a textbook. And this is particularly so if maybe you may have had an experience. You're seated next to a person, or you're seated next to a team member, you're seated next to your team leader in the same office, but there is an issue of even something as lateness, or even there is an issue of not meeting a deadline. And instead of the person calling you for a conversation, they do a lengthy email or a lengthy text. And you just raise your head and you see the person is just seated there. And next, you find that the trust level in those kind of circumstances will usually be very diminished. So it is very, very important. If there is something that is a difficult conversation or a difficult message, to either have a face-to-face conversation or even have a telephone conversation. The other behavior that will destroy trust in the workplace is when you tell half-truths, you use spin, avoidance, whistle words. You're not straightforward with what you say. And every time you speak or every time you make a commitment, everybody is second-guessing you. What do you mean? What is it that you have not said? Because you constantly tell half-truths. You constantly use whistle word. Whistle word is, for example, when you say in a meeting or in a report or even in a conversation, you say things like, most of our customers are very unhappy, or most of the employees are very happy, or we have been able to bring in most of our customers. It helps when you put specific figures where possible. We have been able to bring back 50% of customers who had left. All from the survey or from the research that we did, we have this number of employees raising this particular issue. But when you just use whistle words, you say most of our customers, most of our employees, you see that translates to a half-truth. There might be some element of truth in what you have said, but then you don't give the entire picture. So it is very important. It helps a lot when you say it as it is, when you give facts, when you don't avoid issues, and when you do not use whistle words. The other behavior that we will destroy the trust in the workplace is when you overpromise, but you under-deliver. Whenever you're asked to make a commitment, you always make a commitment that you know is far beyond what you're going to deliver. And therefore, in almost all circumstances, you overpromise, but you under-deliver. And that is even when you're a team leader. The commitments or the promises that you make to the people that you're leading, to the employees that you have, and what you actually end up delivering. The same case when you're part of the team leader, what's the commitment that you've made and what you actually end up delivering. So what you'll find is that when you cannot be trusted with what you have promised to deliver, then you'll find that there's going to be a lot of mistrust. Nobody is going to believe in you. Nobody is going to take you for the word that you give. The other behavior that will destroy trust in the workplace is when you lack self-awareness. Now, when you lack self-awareness, you end up doing things that you do not understand their implication as far as trust levels with your colleagues is concerned. And when you talk about self-awareness here, let's draw it from what we call the Jihadis Window. The Jihadis Window is a psychological theory, a psychology theory that says that an individual can be divided into 4 parts about themselves. What they know about themselves, and everybody knows. what they know about themselves, but other people do not know. And then there is what they do not know and what other people also do not know about themselves. And then there is that bit of what other people know about them or about you, but you do not know yourself. These are your personal prejudices. These are your personal opinions or views that have made you to be acting in a certain way, sometimes subconsciously. And therefore, you may end up with prejudices of, say, you prefer to work with young people, you prefer to work with ladies, you prefer to work with men, you have a preference that has no specific backing. It is based on your socialization and your other views. And therefore, what will happen is that those others that may not be in your favor, then they will feel suspicious about you. It also goes to how you treat people and how you rate people. And this is also part of the basis of what we refer to as tribalism. There are people who will prefer to work with people from a certain tribes or from certain regions because of their beliefs and socialization. Now, when you do not understand yourself and you have that awareness to understand that you may have those prejudices, then you may find that you might be quite an irritation in the workplace. Therefore, you find that people will not want to work with you, they will not trust you, and even those the ones that you think you prefer to work with will also not trust you because they do not know the extent of your prejudices. So it is very, very important to be self-aware, to know what your weaknesses are, what your strengths are, what your prejudices are, so that they do not affect the fabric, the social fabric of the team or the workplace. The other behavior is when you take credit without acknowledging others' contributions. That is, when things are good, it is you, it is I. But when things are not working very well, then you start attempting to allocate the blame. Now, when you do not acknowledge other people, they will not trust you with their ideas. They will not trust you with their initiatives. They will not trust you because they will know that if there is success, then you're going to take all credit without acknowledging them. And there are some people who do this without shame. When it is successful, when things are working well, it is them. But when things are not working very well, they try to allocate the blame. Now, a good leader will always talk about we when you're talking about success. But when you're talking about things that have not worked very well, a good leader will say, I take responsibility. And that way, your people will not only feel protected and motivated, but they would want to support you more, because they know that when things are going to be successful, the credit is going to be shared by everybody, rather than when you take credit without acknowledging the other's contribution. Now, the other behavior that will destroy trust in the workplace is when you relinquish your personal accountability. And that is very closely related with what I have just said about taking credit without acknowledging others. Now, when you relinquish personal accountability, particularly as a team leader, it is that you share out responsibility to everybody, but for you, you cannot be held specifically. You don't want to be held accountable for anything that is specific. You want to relinquish your personal accountability, and you share the accountability, so to put, to everybody else apart from yourself. And that is quite common with people who want to take credit when there is success, but they do not want to take responsibility when things do not work out the way that they expected. So it is very, very important to always hold and remain accountable to your team and to your supervisors when you hold a position of responsibility. Now, the other behavior that will destroy trust in the workplace is when you operate as if others cannot be trusted. You are the only one who can be trusted. You are the only one who believes you can be able to do what needs to be done. And therefore, you'll have conversations, or you'll say things like, I do not think in this team there is anybody else who can be able to do A. There's nobody else who can be able to do X, or there's nobody else who can be able to do Z. I am the only one who can be able to do that. Or nobody else can be trusted with this kind of resources. Nobody else can be trusted with the company resources. Nobody else can be trusted. You forget that you hold that position in trust. And therefore, other people also hold their position in trust. And therefore, when you operate as if others cannot be trusted, it can only be an indication to the trust level yourself. Indeed, mostly you view other people in your own eyes or in your own image. The way you perceive other people is usually most likely a reflection of yourself. So when you keep on hearing, say for example, somebody saying people are stealing, or people will steal, it is usually a reflection of if they were to hold that position of responsibility, they are most likely to steal, or they are most likely not to do what ought to be done. So when you behave as if nobody else can be trusted apart from yourself, then it is an indication that your trust level as an individual are very low, and therefore you cannot trust anybody else. And that goes even all the way even to the family levels. Whenever you hear many quarrels about other people are not trustworthy, it is usually common that the other person who is talking about the others cannot be trusted is the one who is not trustworthy. The other behavior is when you visit the dark side of the organizational politics. You know, every time there is an opportunity, you talk about the dark side of the organization. You always want to point out the things that did not work out. You want to point at the issues that are not working out. You want to talk about that bad history. Now, people will question your intention. Why is it that you're always talking about the thing? Every organization has a part of it, or a history, or a time that things did not work out very well. And that is the way of life. But it cannot be that every time in conversations, or even in meetings, or in other forums, you only want to keep on referring to the things, or the dark side of the organization, the things that are not working, or the things that did not work. I'm not saying that you don't point out things that are not working. I'm saying that it should not be the dark side, or the part that is not very good is what you keep on repeating all the time. So if you do those kind of things, you'll find that you destroy the trust within the team, and nobody is going to be to trust each other. So what are some of the things that then you can be able to do so that you can be able to improve the trust level? One of the things that you can do to improve the trust level is to demonstrate a sincere willingness to support other people. To demonstrate a sincere willingness to support other people. To support other people to grow. To support other people to perform their task, to support other people to understand their responsibility even better. And more importantly, a sincere demonstration of that willingness. And I like saying every so often that when you work within a team, you're not frozen in time. That you'll always be the team leader, and everybody else is going to be your subordinate. Some of the people that you lead will achieve a lot more than you'll ever hope to achieve. So what you can do is support them. When you demonstrate that sincere support, then in return, they are going to support you. And when they support you, then you'll be able to achieve the organizational goal. The other thing that you can do to create trust is to model the behavior that you want to see in the organization. To model the behavior that you want to see, the behavior that you want everybody else to behave. Now, when you model the behavior that you want, it will mean that you walk the talk, they look up to you, they will follow what you're saying, and they will believe in what you say. And therefore, every time the team that you're leading listens to you, they believe in what you are saying because you have demonstrated that you always walk the talk. And number 3 is you share information. You share information. Communicate and share information. There are people who believe that they become indispensable in an organization by hoarding information. You don't share the information. You don't want to give. You don't want to give. Information. Now, what will happen is that if you don't share, you don't receive, and therefore the information that you are hoarding, you'll be the only information that you have. So what will happen is that your information will keep on shrinking. The information available to you will keep on shrinking as you are hoarding it, because other people are not going to share their information because you're not sharing either. And therefore, as other people will grow and they gather more information, your information keeps on shrinking. And therefore, with time, you'll find that you'll only have so little information because you have not been sharing, and therefore you have not been receiving. And lastly is effective communication. Now, effective communication that can be believed, that is understood, that has clarity, and that is truthful. Thank you very much. That is the end of our conversation today. But the next episode, please tune in when we'll be talking about effective communication.